Just to reflect on some of what we've talked about today, maybe get a few perspectives from the room on key takeaways or key themes that you have been sitting with you, that you've really latched onto. So I'll cast it out into the room for a moment. So think about your answer and what that might be. We'd love to just kind of get some quick feedback here. But let's just go down the panel here. What was it for you, Kendra, that sort of maybe surprised you today, or a theme that has kind of really emerged for you that maybe you weren't expecting?
You don't even give me time to process and think, eh?
I'm giving them time to process and think.
Well, that's
putting
fair.
you on your toes.
Okay. I would say the thing that surprised me the most from today is, first of all, that everybody really resonated with the human dynamics. I wasn't sure if everybody would lean into that. Maybe that's also my own bias and excitement for it coming out and viewing it through that lens. The other thing that was really fascinating is just everybody's experience with adoption. While it looks different, everybody in the room has some version of a similar story. And I think we thought that might happen, but it was really neat to see just the interconnectedness of every single business, every single person, leader in this room, and how the thread really does tie through each and every one of you. And I've been in awe listening to the chatter and hearing the different stories today. So that's something that I thought might happen, but was really pleasantly surprised because it's exceeded my expectations today. That's
great. All right, John, you're up.
I've got two things that really stand out. One is the engagement from each of you in terms of the questions, the comments, both in the middle of a presentation, at the end of the presentation, and after the fact. I feel like there has been a number of very direct comments, observations, and even challenges that have been brought up to that. So that would be the first one. The second one is having the ability to overhear some of the conversations that occur, whether it's in the lunch line or in the quick breaks or even outside. There's been some real value, even if it's a nugget, but maybe multiple nuggets of information that people have identified that they believe they can take back to work, which is ultimately what we aspire to do. And I mean, if we're leaving without giving you something, let us know tonight, come get a glass of wine, and then let's try to figure out how to give you that one little nugget. But that would be the two things that I think about.
Rob?
I was going to echo one thing that Kendra said too, because in my conversation with Patrick, it was really great because people don't talk about these things, about the rollout of technology as much. As Patrick even said, this software is going to change the world, and then it's great, and then it's you're left to figure it out for yourself, and that's what a lot of the work is. And so it's great that this has been a forum for that, to understand that this is not easy. This requires investment, it requires time. So there's that. But the other thing, I just wanted to share a story from someone named Ed who told me over lunch just about the preponderance of AI and voice chat agents. He was telling me that he got a call from someone who was interested in hiring him for something, and as he was talking to them, the guy said, "But how do I know you're not a chatbot?" And he said, "Well, I'm not." And he said, "Well, prove it." And he's like, "Well, I'm not a chatbot. What do you want me to say?" So the way to work around this was he got him to call him on another number to verify that he's not a chatbot. So that's a glimpse into, I think, what's coming a little bit around I think I was talking to Martin, disclosure is going to be a thing, to let you know that you're talking to a chatbot versus not, but also just the waves of what's coming in terms of, how it's going to change the dynamic.
And whether we care whether or not we're talking to a chatbot, if it's a common sense thing. Well, I will say that although the whole day was around a theme of AI, I just kept reflecting on the fact that when we did this event a year ago, I know I said this morning, we were doing AI 101. We were explaining what RAG is. We were talking about this emerging technology. It's been around for a couple of years. And here we are, and it is ubiquitous. And not everybody's embraced it or got a chatbot on their website. But I was just so impressed by the folks that have come, that have entered this room today, and the way that they have found their way into this technology, being able not to be overly scared of it. There's apprehension, and we heard some of that apprehension as well. But generally speaking, we're not just embracing it because we think we're supposed to or we have to because it's inevitable. There was so many stories of success and optimism and value and transformation that we're building better businesses and building better experiences. I just thought it was really cool to kind of get all of that, out into the open, out into the room today. So that was pretty cool. I want to thank everybody for contributing to that conversation. Who wants to share a key takeaway? I'll get this mic going around.
I think Mark said he had. Good point.
Okay, so who goes next? Who got the first mic? Heather.
Okay, so I think my biggest takeaway is we're here and we're talking about digital momentum, and the biggest takeaway that I got is the human aspect of digital momentum, right? We talked a lot about how things that hold us back are team dynamics. We don't invest enough in our people. How do we get people to adopt things? And so we always think about technology as the next best thing. It's going to be super easy. You just click a button. AI is going to take over the world and everyone's going to lose their jobs. But I think one of the big takeaways today is that you're always going to need those humans. And so you need to remember that they're there and invest in them.
Yeah, well said. Who was next? Oh, David, I think.
Yeah. I think what was an interesting through line through all of it was, if you want to boil it down to a single word, would be clarity, and how do you use that, whether you are trying to sell people on adopting AI or other specific technology implementations in terms of exploring it, buying it, using it, whatever it might be. Being able to point to specifically what is it going to do, what is it not going to do, on what time frame is it going to do it, what are you asking people to do with it, what are you asking people to not do with it. The more you can answer that at any of those phases or in any of those scenarios, the more likely you are able to get people to sign off on the purchase order, to actually go ahead and implement it, or at the very least dig up tangible objections that you can then try to assuage, address, or otherwise mitigate, as opposed to just getting no because, or just no without a because even. So I think that's an important takeaway that, again, to the other person's point, brings it back to the people involved. But the more aware that you are going into it, the more you can proactively come and address those things ahead of time, or come prepared with answers for when they invariably kind of stick in the mud around it.
Yeah, it's kind of, whoa, that was louder. It's kind of interesting how AI is actually a forcing function to get us to be more human, it's going to unload some of the busy work and allow us to get back to different ways to genuinely connect with each other and with our customers in that much more of a meaningful way. And that is going to require human intuition, at least for now. And so there's still, it's not just reassuring, it's exciting from my perspective. So maybe I'll keep doing what I do for a living. Eric, you were going to share some thoughts.
The human thing's been talked about, so I won't touch on that. But what that means to me as well is what kept coming through was the importance to meet people where they are. And Kendra did that very eloquently from the leadership level, but throughout the day, we talked about solving business problems and the focus on who's closest to the problem. It's often our frontline staff. They're the ones that are engaging with the client. They're the ones that are seeing how work is being done. They're the ones that are seeing the good and the bad of the technology. So I think the theme I took away is staying close to that front line, meeting our people where they are and asking the questions. That's how we're going to get the efficiency, the ROI, the output we want from all of this massive change. It involves technology, process, and people. So it's just meeting people where they are, and both at the leadership level and just at the day-to-day level in terms of solving problems. Right?
That's awesome. Any other thoughts, reflections, contributions, takeaways from today? We got one over there.
I have a question.
Oh, yep. Go ahead.
So through the presentations today, we see a lot of logos of this technology platform, this other technology platform, and then when you watch the slides come up with 20 different logos, and then you add all the cost of all these tokens that people are paying, the investment in third party is just getting so gigantic for some businesses.
Yep.
And my question to you is, in your work, at what point do you start thinking that the best solution for a client is a fully custom software purpose-built for their enterprise to disintermediate from all this money that's flowing into the black hole of SaaS? And I think you understand my question.
Yeah, I do,
I think there is that break point, I think, where it's worth the investment. And I just wanted to get comment from whoever wants to address how to get away from just giving money to third parties and building things that are just immediately delivering value based on the user stories and the very specific needs of the customers.
Well, I do have an answer to that, but I bet you do, because your slide was... Yeah. So I'll pass over to John. In your slide, you talked about whether or not somebody could just install the same technology and get the same competitive advantage, or take away your competitive advantage. Kind of a similar theme to that comment there. What's your thought, John?
Yeah, so I would go back to, there was a mid-2000s, and I was in a very competitive market looking at distribution of parts and services. There wasn't anything that we sold that couldn't be bought by 3 or 4 other distributors in the same industrial park. And then when you look at the advent of e-commerce, and everybody has an e-commerce website now, especially when you're trying to sell something, it really said, what is it that we do differently than everybody else? And start with our people and our process, and then we look at our technology. And when we took a look at the commoditization of business processes and technology, those are things we wanted to buy. We wanted those to just be off the shelf. Let's implement them. Let's tweak them based on our needs. But when we took a look at like our product data or the unique services that we had, or it was ultimately our business model and what was different about us, those are the things that we looked to say, we're going to build those our own so that it will be a differentiator, and we will always have that in place of us and our competition as a moat. Now, that was one type of business, right? But I think if you go back and take a look at whether you offer services or you offer membership or you offer financing capabilities, ultimately it's what do you do differently than anybody else? And if you do it differently, it's probably worth investigating whether you should be building it custom or at least customizing the capability to create that value and that advantage. That would be how I would look at it.
Yeah, great answer. Anybody else? Thanks for the question. There was another comment?
Yeah, I was just wanting to add that my biggest takeaway today was change management and reinforcing how we all deal with change management and adoption of technologies. Whether you are rolling it out or you are the recipient and you need to implement and adopt and make the change, right? We all face it, and whatever our industry is, whatever our level of work it is, we're all facing change management in different ways, and we all have to be better at it. As this continues to evolve, we have to evolve the way we're rolling it out. We're kind of like selling things, and a lot to Kendra's point too, right? How do you share the whys behind the change? What are the greatest takeaways? What are the avoiding pain points that you'll face once the adoption is made? I think, basically that's my biggest takeaway today, change management.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's cool to think about the fact that technology now isn't necessarily about a big platform transition, that there are ways to iterate your way into an adjustment, a change, a transformation, a new experience that can be done iteratively, that can be done successfully. We've learned a lot about the human condition and the way we react to these things, and so we can sort of advance our solutions and our experiences and make sure that our team comes along successfully.
Thanks. Yeah, it's interesting too because in our experience, there's only so much change that some organizations can actually take at one given time. And Scott was talking about how he's the one who wants to change stuff really fast. I'm kind of that way too, but I've come to learn that if you try to do too much too fast, nothing will stick. And so often knowing, and I would say each organization, that could be a whole paper for you. Like knowing what amount of change each organization is capable of is an interesting thing to think about. But for the most part, it's knowing it and then understanding it for your own business.
And I would offer up when it comes to change, treat that like a project, treat that like an outcome that you want to have, and invest in it intentionally, as opposed to just saying, oh, we're going to take it all on. Go after the change that's going to get you the biggest return on your investment, because it is an investment. And I would make sure that you prioritize that. We have these conversations in both my personal life and in my professional life. It's like, we cannot absorb everything all at once. So
we've reached the therapy set part of the evening.
No, we haven't even gotten to one.
Any other thoughts, reflections, comments that somebody wants to share? Yep, we got one more here from Chris.
Thank you. We sort of touched on it a bit in terms of human, but the idea around security I thought was the most impactful thing for us, because I think if people are worried and seeing, articles about layoffs all the time and worried that AI tools will replace their job, having that level of confidence to say, like someone said earlier, it may replace your job, but like that's not the intent of us adopting it. I think that removes blockers and obstacles, which kind of alluded to in our industry. So I thought that was powerful, that reinforcing the benefits that you're getting is not just to be able to swap out headcount, which I think someone also said doesn't, you also said doesn't directly translate to as well, which I thought was important. So that was a big one for me.
Yeah, that's great, Chris. Can I ask a question? Oh, go ahead. You got it.
Sorry, yeah, I didn't mean to steal the limelight. Okay, Rob made a passing comment just now, kind of was interested to hear a little bit more, because I think we can all agree that things just aren't going to stay equal. So like when we get together in a year's time, what do you think is going to have changed the most?
So you just committed to coming back. Is that what I heard?
100%. I mean, there's the whole expression, the pace of change is never going to be as slow as it is today. So I don't want to cop out by saying I have no idea, because it's changing even faster. I think that the way that we interact with some of the things that we think of as gospel right now or set in stone, a year from now are going to change significantly. So it could be the way we shop, it could be the way we live, it could be the type of communications we have. So I think the potential with AI to just really act as that sort of middle layer, like we were talking about with voice agents, right? With voice and people communicating with chatbots, where you wouldn't even dream of doing that now in certain aspects. So that's one of the things that comes to mind, that there's going to be a lot more voice and a lot more chat. So that's my initial thought, but it's a big question.
Yeah,
we'll go down the panel on this question.
All right. I think that in a year's time, we will have a much stronger understanding as to the actual impact of AI on the job market. And I think that the last 4 weeks in particular the conversation has shifted in a fairly dramatic way in terms of AI is going to replace jobs to what about all the additional jobs that are going to be built and that are going to be necessary. And I think about it when we talk about the notion of human in the loop, right? When you start to orchestrate full workflows, right, you don't remove humans. You actually increase the importance of humans to sit on top of the loop in order to validate and advocate. I think that the notion of Javon's paradox is going to, is anybody familiar with Javon's paradox?
I was going to say, you better explain that one for me.
I am not an expert on this, but I have been doing some reading on it, but it's essentially the notion that as the cost of technology decreases to a level of it becoming much more usable within society, the need for it actually increases in a significant way, to the point where we will be developing the hypothesis is we'll be developing additional jobs to leverage the AI capabilities, because AI becomes less expensive than it is today, even though we're exiting the area of subsidy from a token perspective. So I think that in a year, we will have a much better understanding as to which side of the coin it is on, and I do believe it is on a side of the coin. I don't think it's status quo.
Do you want to go next, Kendra, or do you want me to go next? Okay, go for it. I'll give you the choice this time.
Thank you. I think we're going to see more intentionality around the tools that we're using, and whether that's because there's amalgamation of things, but from my perspective and opinion, I don't think we'll see everybody having a license to every single thing like we kind of do now, but more intentionality around we're using this, and like you would choose any provider. And so I think people are just kind of testing, as we saw, obviously, from the data, people are experimenting a lot more. And in a year's time, maybe even 6 months' time, we'll see a lot more loyalty to specific brands, maybe forced loyalty because some won't fully.
Some lock-in, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But there'll just be fewer tools and more intention as to why we use them and how we use them.
And so my answer is kind of similar to John's. Like, I do think we're going to see a commoditization of AI. Sort of price and availability is going to be more accessible. I think there's going to be a bit of a roller coaster before we do get to that point. But I also think there's going to be more of a democratization of data. I think that, like, I was playing around with the data for my Garmin watch, which, by the way, died the other day. It was a terrible crisis. I was like, what? I have no idea how I slept last night. It's just so disorienting. But it died. I had to do it anyway. But I was fiddling around. I was like, I would love to get a better AI summary of my own data. And I couldn't do it. It was locked in the Garmin platform. I will use their brand name. And I was taking screenshots and submitting it and whatnot. And I was trying to fiddle around, and it was really frustrating. I was like, there's got to be an API. There's got to be a way, and there just wasn't, because that's a value to Garmin. But they've got an integration with Strava. Okay, and you can follow me on Strava, by the way. And wouldn't you know it, Strava just announced that they've opened up an MCP server and they're making my data available to me so I can connect Claude or OpenAI to Strava. So I've very quickly now got a workaround. I can send my Garmin data to Strava, which it already does, and then into the AI models. So I think we're going to find that, like, there's going to be that lock-in, and the companies that have our data are going to try to monetize that as much as they can, but I think it's going to be a losing battle in the long run. And I think in a year from now, that will be a dramatically different picture.
Can I just touch on something that Chris said
very
quickly about security? And I think it kind of ripples all the way back through. That if your team is pushing back when it comes to change management, that can be a very good thing. It means that they're vocal, it means that they care, and it means that you're getting more information that you wouldn't otherwise have. So I just wanted to share that the fact that people are pushing back might not necessarily mean that they don't have security. It might mean that there's an abundance of security and they feel comfortable sharing that information. So leverage that, use that as data, and then it means that they're passionate, they care about the work. So that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? All right. Well, one more question for my colleagues up here, fellow panelists, and I'll just let somebody volunteer to go first. If we weren't talking about AI right now, and it didn't exist, what do you think that we would be talking about from a digital experience perspective?
I think we'd be talking about your end user experience and what is necessary in order to drive that. And I use the term end user very intentionally, right? Because for some of it is a customer. For others, it's an employee. It could be a supplier. It could be a partner. And so it's the first E in my company's name, E3. It's about the end user, and it's about the experience they have, and it's about how you elevate that experience in order to meet the needs beyond what is stated. I still don't feel like that's getting enough play ever. And so that would be where I think we'd be talking.
I like that in your name.
You all have to have your own answer.
Oh gosh.
If we weren't talking about AI, what do you want us to be talking about?
Oh, that's a different question.
What you can dodge that and go with your lane if you want.
No, that's not fair. We've been talking about that all day. I think answer stays the same. Rob, do you have something yet? I mean, my first thought was to say, how we find better homes for dogs around the world using some digital platforms. I would say processing. I think kind of from what I've heard, just some of the back end things like payment processing and the ways that we move money around, let's call it, whether that's invoicing without using AI, but just how do we make our processes more efficient if obviously AI didn't exist, but I mean, we've had payment processing for years that hasn't been AI related. So I think that would be a key topic. It's something that I've heard people changing and switching as of late. I don't know, yeah.
This is not something I'm an expert on, but I just finished anyone read Careless People, the Facebook sort of expose? I was talking to Karis about it. So I've been thinking a lot about just the impact of technology on our social and daily lives, and how I'm not really looking to see a highly regulated industry, but just the implications. I've got teenage daughters. Luckily, they've kind of made it through, but just with all the negative impacts of technology, I think that's an important thing that we should have to kind of balance out all the great, wonderful things that we're talking about. So, there you go.
I think it would be around sort of some of the themes and topics that came up last year that have still stuck with me around some of the cognitive biases that we all hold and how we all go about making decisions and what it is that we sort of need to keep in mind when we are messaging with our audience, with our customers, with each other. I think there's a lot of strength in being able to tap into our empathy and our understanding of people and humans and whatnot. So it's a theme that's continued today, and I think that's fundamental to sort of how we all find success in the work that we're doing even today. So regardless of whether it's AI or not, I think that's such an important theme, and that's what, I think the sentiment that has recently been echoed here in this room can attest to as well. So. All right, folks. Well, I would like to get your help thanking these collaborators.
And I want to give a big thank you on behalf of everybody here to Scott for his kick-ass organization of this event.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, these folks were not in it for financial gain. They really just were interested in supporting the work that we were doing together and the idea that we had to put this together. So it really does mean a lot that you were able to contribute as much as you did and to help make this event successful. And I want to thank everybody here. Really, honestly, it's fantastic to get people who are still engaged in the conversation at the end of the day to join us for this kind of thing. Please tell your friends. Please come back next year. This is how we all